First of all, apologies that this video is going to be a little later than intended. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of GT7 news over the weekend, so I had to kind of push this one back. Anyway, let's get into the weekly challenges then, starting off with the Jimny Cup at Lake Louise. We then head over to Willow Springs. This is the streets of Willow Springs and the lightweight K Cup, of course featuring some of GT7's smallest vehicles, and that theme is going to continue on into the special event with the return of the Honda N1 RS1 make. After that, for the fourth event, we head to Watkins Glen and Race of Turbo Sports Cars, and to finish up this week, it's going to be the Le Mans World Touring Car 700, one of GT7's main grinding events. Now, I will be releasing this full updated build in a coming video, but before we get into the actual weekly challenges themselves, I'm trying to get this channel to 70,000 subscribers. So if you want to stay up to date with everything GT7 and motorsport gaming related, then feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and turn your notifications on. Anyway, let's get to it then with an overview of October Week 4. This will end on the 30th of October 2025 at midnight. Kicking things off, as mentioned, is Lake Louise. This time it's on the short track reverse for the Jimny Cup. Then we have Willow Springs on the streets of Willow Springs, this time for the lightweight K Cup, before heading over to Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit for the Honda N1 RS1 make, of course returning for I believe maybe even the third or fourth time at this point. Then after that, we head over to Watkins Glen on the long course layout for Race of Turbo Sports Cars, before finishing up this week at Le Mans with the World Touring Car 700. Your rewards for this week is 100,000 credits for one event, for 3 events is 200,000 credits, and for all 5 is a free car reward. We do see changes with one event completed going from a parts ticket to a credit reward ticket, as well as boosted rewards for 3 events completed. So with that being said then, let's go ahead and kick the week off, of course with the Jimny Cup, this time at Lake Louise short track reverse. Of course this features both of the Jimny variants in game, both the XC and the JC, one a K-Car variant and one the standard more powerful variant. And of course, well, when it comes to choice here, we have a couple to choose from, and I went for the more standard 100 brake horsepower JC variant, or the Sierra. In terms of this event, it is super simple and super short. 3 laps of this very short Lake Louise layout, of course featuring only Jimnys. Now I do have the Honda engine swap in this one, which made it super easy even on the hardest difficulty. Honestly, I just wanted to get this event over and done with, as I genuinely don't really enjoy the Jimny Cup that much whatsoever. Whilst I do feel that these events do have their place in game, I just feel like they always get the short end of the stick, and there's no pun intended there. Whilst the Jimny, of course, is a kind of compact SUV off-roader, unfortunately the majority of the events are just very uninteresting, with the pack running extremely close and overtakes being, well, far too easy. In the end, after 3 laps, we had over a 43-second lead as we come up across a line to take our first tick of the week. As for the payout for this one, not too bad for the short time taken, 52,500 credits with that clean race bonus. And of course, 5 miles travelled with a 100k bonus credit ticket awarded for 1 event completed. Onwards then to the second event of the week. This is the lightweight K Cup, this time at Willow Springs on the streets of Willow Springs. Of course, we do have a PP limit in place here, as well as a tyre limit, which is comfort softs, and of course 400 PP. And I feel like this is a very well thought out event. Unlike the Jimny Cup, the cars feel competitive enough, and the grid really can put up a challenge if you are not prepared. So I decided to go ahead and use the Daihatsu Copen, which is a vehicle that I don't really pay enough attention to. I'll be totally honest, when it comes to the K cars in game, I have to say that this is probably the least of my favourites. However, I decided to go ahead and make a tiny little track build here to see how it would go ahead and compete against the rest of the field. Again, the balance in here is much better than we see with something like the Jimny Cup, where it's almost entirely unrestricted, yet the majority of cars are only slightly upgraded. The majority of these vehicles will be running around about the 400 pp limit and can definitely put up a much better fight. The ones to watch here are definitely the S660s as well as the Cappuccinos. For some reason they just run miles above the rest of the field and can definitely give you a good run for your money. All you really need to do is just ensure that you're timing your overtakes to perfection, and you should be able to go ahead and take a reasonably competitive win. That's going to give us our second tick for the week. As for the payout, unfortunately this one is just not that good whatsoever. 45,000 credits with the clean race bonus and 7.8 miles travelled. Let's move in to the third event for the week then. This is the returning special event, this time at Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit for the Honda N1 RS 1 make. Of course, when it comes to the Hondas that we're up against here, they are very much cup car variants. They're a lot more powerful than standard. They do have the cool little chunky wide body and can definitely be pretty competitive overall. 5 laps, 10 cars, your specified car must be the N1 RS. First place is 80k, second is 48k, and third is 32k. Your main rival cars are of course a bunch of cup variants of the Honda N1 RS. BOP is off, car used is a garage car, and car settings are allowed with no damage and none of the penalty settings set to on, so you don't need to worry about those. Now of course I'm using a fairly powerful Honda N1 RS here, however I wouldn't say it's really that overpowered in terms of its straight line speed. The main place I can make up a lot of my time here is actually going to be through the corners. Now, as typical with these kind of special events where it's a smaller grid overall, so a total of 10 cars, 9 AI on the grid, they're going to be much more spread out. You'll typically find yourself picking them off one by one. Sometimes you might get 2 of them running pretty close together, but that's pretty much how it's going to be. You're going to be picking them off, ensuring you time those overtakes to perfection, and just working your way through the grid as quickly as possible. As honestly, the lead Honda here does have a fair margin from the back of the grid where you're actually starting, so you will need to have at least a fair few upgrades to go ahead and be competitive here. As you can see, we're going to move ourselves into P2 here, and we still have a 3.5 second deficit to actually go ahead and knock off. Eventually we do manage to get on the back of the leader, we get in that slipstream, get a better run out of the corner and go ahead and make our move. Again, we don't necessarily have the top speed over them, but we definitely do have the better brakes and the better handling, as we managed to get the move done around the outside to secure victory here on lap 3. After that, we're going to go ahead and build up that lead until the end of the race to just over 8 seconds as we come across the line and get our third tick of the week. As mentioned, the payout for this one is 80,000 credits without the clean race bonus. For some reason, I just didn't get it here, and I'm not exactly sure why, but we also get a bonus reward in the form of 200,000 credits. With that being said, let's move in to the fourth event of the week then. This is Watkins Glen Long Course and Race of Turbo Sports Cars. Of course, one of GT7's latest events, of course added in 1.63. In terms of the actual event itself, there is a 700 pp limit in place. The majority of the cars though will be running nowhere near that. Now, my car choice here would be the Blob Eye Impreza. I do have this set up for kind of acceleration and just being absolutely insane through the corners to go ahead and tackle the rest of the field. So let's see how we get on then. A total of 16 cars, 15 AI over a 5-lap sprint race. In terms of the cars that you do need to watch out for, I do find mainly it's going to be the likes of the Z-Tune, as well as some of the more typical R34 GTRs, and of course the Ford Escort RS Cosworth. They do seem to be a step above the rest of the field. However, really it's going to be pretty luck based as to where your actual kind of faster vehicles do end up at the beginning of the race, as if they get caught up in traffic, it's going to make the event much easier overall. Unfortunately though, I do feel like a lot of the Race of Turbo Sports Cars events, this one just goes on for a few laps too long and unfortunately remains pretty uncompetitive in the closing stages. I had a gap of over 21 seconds crossing the line, and a lot of that was just done going sideways. In the end, the payout for this one, 95,000 credits without the clean race bonus, and that's going to give us our daily driving marathon. This time around it would be a 4-star roulette ticket reward. So let's go ahead and get into the final event of the week then. A little bit longer than usual at a 30-minute time limit. This is Le Mans and the World Touring Car 700. Of course, one of the main grinding events for Gran Turismo 7. So you will be paid out fairly well here, meaning that you're going to inherit over 1 million credits for just this week's weekly challenges, as well as a free car. My car choice here would be the Impreza rally car, which is my personal favourite to actually run at this event, and definitely one of the fastest. So a total of 20 cars on the grid, 19 AI and a 30-minute time limit in place. Now honestly, I would just go ahead and stick your car in fuel mix 6 and work your way through the grid as quickly as possible. Really, you want to be getting a lead on that first lap. The main reason is because from there you want to be building up that lead and just hope that the rain comes down. If you do get rain, it will work in your favour. That AI will typically trip themselves up and just kind of spin around for a lot of that time before eventually boxing in. That way you can build up a very, very healthy lead. Now unfortunately, I'm not going to get that honour this time around. As we can see, the rain was coming in, but there really wasn't much to it, and in fact it wouldn't wet the track that much whatsoever, so that even my car or the AIs would not be struggling there. So at the end of lap 3, we're going to be pushing quite hard just to build up that lead, and we're going to go ahead and actually box the car in. So at this point, all I'm doing is going ahead and putting another set of racing mediums on. Whilst we do have some more rain coming, it's not really going to bother us, and the track's really not wet whatsoever. So another set of racing mediums and fill the car to full. This will allow us to go for another 3 laps before boxing in and doing a big fast sprint to the finish line. So at this point of the race, I do feel like I built up a good enough gap, so all I'm going to do is drive pretty conservative. I'm going to save as much tyre life as possible and as much fuel as possible and just cruise around for the next few laps. As we can see, the rain did try and come in again, but thankfully it did miss the track, allowing me to not be caught out in the middle of the track. However, I did end up making a pretty big mess of trying to box in at the end of lap 6, slapping the barrier after just outbraking myself. I'm not quite sure what happened there. Maybe it was just a lapse in concentration. So once again then, racing mediums and then just fill the car to full. The main reason is I just want to waste as much time as possible so that I only have to do the 7th lap at most and not go ahead and do an 8th lap. And this way I can ensure that I've got enough of a lead as I come up to the finish line. So fuel mix 1 and absolutely flat out for the rest of this lap. As we can see, hitting speeds of almost 200 miles per hour here in our Subaru rally car. So we're definitely pulling ahead at this point. Again, I'm just watching the time limit and making sure that I do have enough time over the rest of the field just to basically park up at the start finish line and just let the timer count down that way, which we did here. As we can see, 44 seconds on the clock as we pulled up and a way over a minute lead. So here we go, let the timer count down up across the line, and that's going to finish us as close to the 30-minute mark as possible for our 5th tick of the week. 825,000 credits for this one, over 58 miles travelled, as well as a free car ticket. Now again, I did post the original build a year or so ago, about a year and a half ago, but unfortunately it is a little bit outdated at this point, so I do plan to update that one. Anyway, let's go ahead and open up our rewards then. First of all is our daily driving marathon of a 4-star roulette ticket. Of course, typically this does give me some pretty bad rewards, and unfortunately it's going to be the exact same here. Missing out on the 100k and the 500k, we take away 10,000 credits from our daily driver marathon ticket. Next up is 100,000 credits. Of course, this was for completing one single event this week. Then for completing 3 of them, we see 200,000 credits being awarded to us, taking our total to just under that 100 million credit cap. And then of course we do have our free car ticket reward, which will typically award the player with some of the best cars inside of Gran Turismo 7. As we can see, we've got some pretty awesome machines available here, and I'm going to end up getting this, the McLaren P1 GTR, which is actually worth a fair few credits, and I'm quite happy to now have my 3rd one of the McLaren P1 GTR. Anyway, a massive thank you to everybody for watching this video. Again, apologies, it's a little bit later than intended. We did have some GT7 news over the weekend. Of course, on Friday we had the news of the fastest production car in the world coming to Gran Turismo 7 in a future update, and of course we did have the special pages opened up for the viewers campaign, and of course the predict the winners campaign. I'll see you in the next one. Take care guys, peace.